Hey, deserving listeners, Angela and Michael, 90 Day Fiancé. I'm going to react to it. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Let's watch.
I got to get my weight off. Got to quit smoking. Got to get my heart checked. There's more than you think. You're just having a baby. I got to make sure, Michael, that if I can't do it after we're married and we've tried every option, you won't just leave me because I can't have a baby. I can't take that stress and that anxiety.
So, 2 thumbs up to Angela here. She's not being hostile. She's speaking from the heart. She's speaking from her anxiety. She even used that word. She's saying, I need to know that if we get married and we discover I can't have kids, I need to know now that you're not going to leave me. Otherwise, we need to end it here. So she's being differentiated. She is not being hostile. It gives him the opportunity to not be scared and intimidated and able to be honest. So let's see what he says, because there's a good chance that he's going to say, well, if you can't have kids, then yeah, it's off. Let's see what he says.
I picture myself in the future, being a father of my child, playing with him or her, it's a joyous thing for a man to have his own child.
Yeah, absolutely. But why would you date someone? I mean, I think he met her when she was, I'm guessing, 49 or 50. Do you not understand how these things work? Maybe he doesn't. But okay, you wanted that. But why are you dating someone of that age? It's just, I haven't said that yet. And I'm guessing a lot of people in the comment section are saying that. It's just like, so this is on him. So I kind of agree with that. But let's see what he says here.
I'll do everything possible to make you happy, but it's just scary.
I know it's scary. And I know we have our ups and downs, but deep down, I love you. Even if you don't have a child, I'm going to stick by you,
Okay, that's good. I don't know if that exactly answers the question, though, because I'm not sure, but I think the mom even indicated this. And remember Lisa and Usman? They had an issue like this where he can have other wives, essentially. So I don't know what that means. He's saying, I love you, and even if you can't have a child, I'm going to stick by you. But does that mean he's not going to have another person in his life with whom he's going to have a child with, which I'm pretty sure she is against, even if it's just a brief relationship? So let's see if they get into that detail. And again, I don't know if that's on the table for him, even in his culture, but I think that was discussed in an earlier season. Let's continue watching.
Once your male knows that probably you might not have a child, I'm afraid. I don't know what is going to happen.
What if your mom told you, Michael, seriously, if I can't have children to leave, don't marry me, what would you do?
Okay, so good. She is asking in a calm manner, if your mother will not bless this marriage because I can't have kids, what would you do? She's not asking in a hostile way, and this gives him a chance to answer honestly. And let's see what he has to say.
I'm going to be with you now. I thought we discussed it before. I have to talk to her. Because she wants me to be happy. But she's just going to be, kicky about. She wants me to be happy. So
I want you to be happy too, Michael.
I know.
So I think he's giving his answer, but it's not entirely clear. I think that Angela, at least to satisfy my curiosity, could ask a follow-up question of like, okay, I get it, you want to be with me, but are you going to pressure me to have another partner so that you can get pregnant, as I think is in your culture, as your family might pressure you to do, as your mom might pressure you to do? What are you going to do there? Because I'm not exactly sure what his policy is on that. And maybe I'm a little affected by the Lisa Usman relationship, because that came out of the blue. And I don't know the status on that, but we saw with Lisa and Usman, they were together and they got married. He stayed in his home country and he got married to someone else, something like that. And it was revealed during the tell-all, and we didn't see the development of that. So he would have gotten married to someone else soon after he married Lisa, which is interesting. And Lisa seemed to be fine with it. So it makes me wonder what is really happening here. And I don't want to say that Michael is like Usman, but I think that maybe there's some miscommunication or maybe going into denial or wishful thinking or something. I guess I just worry that either one of them don't really know what they're getting into. But maybe they do, and maybe he is completely upfront and saying, no, push comes to shove, you can't have kids. I'm going to be with you. I'm not going to be with anyone else. It'll be a bummer to my family, which will be hard for me. And it'll be hard for me because I want to have kids too, but I'd rather be with you than to leave you. So I guess maybe they'll get into it. Let's see.
I divorced my husband after 3 years. I was young too, very young, like 17.
So you were not really in love. You just...
Was my first love, I think. And then, I learned that that's not love from his side,
So this is the love of your life.
He better be.
Okay, so we learned a little bit of a detail about her past. I don't know if we've heard anything about her past. She said she was married at 17 and that she was in love, according to her, and at one point learned that he wasn't in love with her, I think. So a bit of a detail there. Maybe that contributes to her sensitivity when it comes to abandonment or humiliation. I don't know. Let's continue watching.
Under that platform, one man, one woman. That is the one you have to stick to.
Since we're going to be living apart for a little bit till the visa gets approved, what about side chicks? Is he allowed to have side
No,
chicks?
he's not allowed to have. He's not
see?
allowed. Just satisfy him. Angela, satisfy him sexually.
What? That took a turn. So just to recap what's happening here. They are applying for their marriage license, and these two legal individuals are saying there are three types of marriage. There's the traditional marriage, which you can have a wife and then you can have women on the side. I think I don't know the technical term. You can have a Muslim marriage where you marry as many women as you want. And then you can have the legal marriage, which is one man, one woman. And then Angela says, I think as a joke, to say, well, what does it say about getting married and having women on the side, even if you're not married to those other women? Is that okay? And then the legal people are saying, no, that is not okay. And I thought it's just a slight moment. But then the legal person says, you must satisfy him. If you satisfy him, then he won't need to cheat on you. Yikes.
If you are doing that, his eye will not be outside. Make him happy. When he comes back, the food is ready. The bed is laid properly. Total submission, total submission, total submission.
Whoa. I mean, I guess. Of course, in my neck of the woods, and I think Angela's, this is not okay to tell a woman that her role legally, culturally, is not only to please him sexually so that and it's your fault if he cheats on you because you obviously weren't pleasing him sexually. And two, to go way beyond that is total submission, total submission, total submission. Whoa. You hear about these things, but in my little cultural bubble, this is shocking to hear. Of course, you hear about these things, I read about these things. I've had clients who talk about these sorts of things, and it's just not very frequent I come across it. Some of y'all actually come from societies where this isn't an uncommon idea. Now, in the United States, it's not like we don't have sexism and that we don't have subtle versions of this or even not so subtle versions of this for sure. But to have it to be so explicit and a part of a application to get married, you're applying to get married, okay, just so you know, you're signing on that dotted line, you're agreeing to be completely 100% submissive to him, you'll do whatever he says. Wow, that sucks. I mean, I don't see any way around it. I often get into cultural discussions and, maybe I'm getting myself into some trouble here, but I just don't think that's okay for half of the population of a society to, in order for them to have a family and to have love, they have to at least culturally sign off on the idea that they need to be totally submissive to another person. Now, I'm sure there are people who can discuss the pros and cons of a society like that, but that's a tough one to accept. Comment below if there are any pros to that, if there are any benefits. I come from my cultural pocket, so when I see this, it's really a big yikes to me. But maybe people who come from societies like this or understand societies like this are like, no, Kirk, you don't understand. It all works when you do all these other things. I have to say it's going to be hard to convince me that this is beneficial to women in a society like this. But I'm open to hearing people provide their points.
The happiness you want in this marriage is you get it from him.
Of course, I'm going to want to make him happy, but I will treat you like I would treat myself. This is just the truth.
Wish you happy married life.
Thank you.
I'm on there.
So you are qualified for the marriage.
Thank you.
So good for Angela for sticking up for herself and saying, yeah, I hear you that this is the culture, but I'm not from this culture and I don't value that. I'm not going to be submissive. That's just not going to happen. A lot of people in this situation might shy away from that kind of conversation. They might just smile and nod their head and sign in the dotted line, but she's very clear, like, nope, anyone who brings up that idea with me, I'm going to politely decline that lifestyle.
So why are you saying that?
Listen.
I'm not listening, no more. Something's not right here. You have told two different stories here, and that's been our problem from the beginning.
I'm not telling
You're
them.
making them happy on their side, and you're being deceitful, and you're making me happy on my side. You can't not live two lives.
So I think that Angela is pointing out something that is fair and accurate, and it fits his profile, and it fits my hypothesis about his possible personality profile and his personal traumas, that he says what people want to hear. And when he is alone with Angela, which is most of the time in the show, he says whatever she wants to hear, essentially giving her very clear impressions, maybe clear statements that, yes, when we go to the States, I will live like an American husband. We will be equal. I will not be dominant over you. I won't ask you to be submissive, and everything will be fine. I don't know if they got into the specifics on that, but I think that was Angela's impression that she got from him. Maybe they didn't talk about it at all, and maybe Angela just made that up. But anyway, and I think he also gives the impression to his family that he will retain his Nigerian culture, including gender dynamics in marriage. Specifically that she will be submissive, he will be the head of the household, she will cook the food, he will eat the food, she will take care of the home, and he will work outside of the home. She will, all those traditional kinds of behaviors. And when he's talking with his family, but now we're in a situation where I think he is a little more able to speak from his heart, because I think they've improved their relationships since the first season in that he is being more honest and she is being less hostile. And now the truth is starting to come out, especially when his aunt is present and other people are present. It's like, yeah, Angela sees Michael agreeing with the aunt and saying, yeah, sure, when we get to the States, believe me, we're going to change some things, or she'll change these kinds of messages. And now Angela sits down and is like, this isn't the first time this has happened. When you're with me, you're one way, and when you're with your family and other Nigerians, you're another way. So you're either lying to them or you're lying to me. What's going on here? And she's saying it in a non-hostile way. I think if we were to rewind the clock to another season, she would have flipped the table over, smashed something in his face, and wandered off. So she's staying present, and let's see how they work this out.
I am not lying. Our relationship is going to be 50-50.
Did that sound like what he was trying to tell you?
He said it's going to be 50-50. And I told him, being a Nigerian man, your wife has to be submissive.
Okay, so now in front of his family, he is saying, no, it's going to be 50-50. And then the aunt offers her opinion, which she's entitled to. But let's see what he says. Now, if I were Angela in this instance, I think she's upset that the aunt is saying that, because it's like, I don't want that. But if I were Angela, I would turn to Michael and I'd be like, so what do you have to say to her that? She just said that. What do you think about that? Because that's mainly what Angela is concerned about. she's not so concerned with what the family thinks. She's mainly concerned what Michael thinks. But I'm worried in this situation that Angela is going to go after the aunt, the family member, instead of doing what I think is really relevant of turning to Michael and saying, like, do you believe that? Do you believe I'm supposed to be submissive?
But now, with the things I'm saying now, Angela, I'm very sorry. I like you.
That's fine.
But with this kind of attitude, I don't know about your marriage.
So, we're done. You need to think whether you're going to do what they want you to do or what me and you've been doing for.
Okay, so this is interesting. I think this is a classic triangle in that there is a conflict between Angela and Michael. It's really ongoing. When there's a flare-up, she gets aggressive and he withdraws. And you could say it begins with Angela mainly and her traumas, I think, but I don't know. And the aunt is being triangulated in. And the aunt, I think, is trying to say what a lot of people say to this couple, maybe including a lot of people watching the TV show, which is, I see that your relationship, you love each other, but Angela, you gotta be nicer. You can't talk to people like that. At the higher end of your hostility and aggression, it's just not called for, and it's not fair. And I love my nephew, Michael, and I don't like people talking to him like that. You can tell him how you feel, and if it's a 50-50 relationship, fine, but you can't talk to him like that. The way that you talk to him, it's mean. It's upsetting to watch. I think that's what the aunt is saying. And what she is kind of saying to Angela is you've got to change your behavior or something like that. Now, Angela, I'm guessing, this is total speculation, feels hurt by that, a little bit threatened, because I think she likes the aunt. I think before this moment, Angela really liked the aunt. It felt like she could trust her. Instead of going to the aunt and saying, I don't like what you're saying right now, or taking a breath, emotionally regulating, she is now turning to him. So in the beginning, the anxiety is between Angela and Michael. The third person, the aunt, is brought into that as a triangle. The aunt now kind of soaks up the energy and the tension. Michael, when he is under pressure, he kind of withers and withdraws, right? And then he'll become passive aggressive, I think, through his deceptive behaviors, lying and that sort of thing, as a way of getting back at Angela in a very dysfunctional way. Again, it's a hypothesis. I don't know if that's what's happening. I'd have to ask him. But so the tension is between them. Because Michael withers and withdraws, the aunt is sucked in. If you've ever been in a situation like this, in fact, watching this show, you might be sucked in. You might be watching these two, and you might be yelling at the television at Angela because Michael isn't rising to the occasion. Michael isn't saying, whoa, 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 isn't saying, hey, knock it off, or you can tell me how you feel, but I don't like this tone that you're having with me. When a triangulated third, sometimes us, including therapists, are sucked in. Sometimes it's tempting to want to attack the Angelas of the world instead of trying to help the two of them actually work this out by helping Michael to speak up in a way that's functional, or helping Angela to draw him out or whatever. Anyway, so because he's withering away, the aunt gets sucked in naturally and then wants to go after. Now the conflict is between her and Angela, and now he is the triangulated third, and he's on the outside. And then because I think Angela doesn't want to fight with the aunt because she doesn't want to do that, she turns to Michael now, and now the conflict is back to the anxiety is now between Angela and Michael. So if we were to rewind the clock and we were to be more differentiated and less of a dysfunctional triangle, the aunt could have asked, I'm guessing what the energy would have helped is that if she would have asked Michael, what do you think about the way she talks to you? Because when I hear her talk to you, I think that it goes over the top sometimes. But Michael, what do you think? So that would have shifted it back to Michael. And then as the aunt, whatever Michael says, if Michael says, it's fine, we deal with it and we work things out, then the triangulated third, the aunt could say like, well, not my business. I'm not going to fight Michael's fights for him. So what's the big deal? And that's one of the principles of detriangulating yourself or trying to involve yourself in a functional triangle is to take a beat and stop and say, what am I doing right here? Am I fighting someone else's fight? And this is actually a frequent countertransference issue for couples therapists or even individual therapists. It happens all the time. a lot of people come into therapy complaining about a relationship, or a couple comes in, or a family comes in. And it's really tempting as a therapist. It happens all the time, and we make mistakes all the time because it's hard to keep a straight head in a situation like that. But it's a constant battle for a therapist to navigate that vacuum and that sucking motion, that gravitational pull into fighting other people's fights, which is almost never a helpful thing. What's helpful is to help people actually resolve their issues and not fight people's fights.
3 years. I'm done talking.
Oh, no.
It's been fun. See you later. I'll be at the house.
Angie.
I'll be at the house.
Angie.
And again, I don't know, but I think she has some traumas around humiliation or being ganged up on. We saw her get real triggered when Jesse was getting, quote unquote, ganged up on. I think she probably could tell a lot of really horrible stories from her childhood about being bullied by groups of people, being humiliated by groups of people. It's just a guess, because in this moment, I think she's got the cameras, she's got the family members, she's got Michael, she feels alone, she feels ganged up on. No one is there to support her point of view, and she comes out swinging, and she's like, I'm going to get on top of this. And I'm gonna assert my power, and I'm gonna walk out, and I don't care what's happening, and you all can go to heck. I think that's her way of protecting herself from the pain and anxiety that I think she's experiencing. But I don't know. I'd have to ask her.
I will talk to her. It's just gonna take a matter of time.
Don't allow this woman to rule you. Stand on your feet.
I'm not doing it. This wedding's off. Red flags has been here from the beginning.
So she's doing it again. She's done this many times, and maybe she's serious this time, but she has broken up with him a number of times on this show. It is her go-to behavior when she is distressed. And we've all been there. You've been hurt, you're upset, you're stewing by yourself, and you're thinking about all the things you want to blast at the other person, like, oh, I should have said this. Oh, and when he said that, like, that was complete BS. And you're having those arguments, you're distressed, you're upset, you don't know what to do. And the thought creeps into your head of just like, hey, divorce or breakup. That's always an option. It certainly seems appealing right now. And for some of us, it's a thing that sustains itself. Even after we calm down a few weeks later, we're like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I want to leave this person. But I think for Angela, she has a temporary thought, and it is this thought. Under stress, she goes to this thought as a coping mechanism. Makes sense. We all do that. But I think she has a hard time differentiating between her impulses and her goals in life, because she clearly doesn't have this goal, because whenever she calms down, she always changes her mind. So you would think in this moment, if she had more therapy, if she had more healing, she would be able to say, I've had this impulse before. I'm guessing I'm just in a really bad mood. It's actually one of the most beneficial maturation emotional processes you can actually have, which is to notice your mood. In fact, I'll just talk about myself. As I've gotten older, one of the most important factors in my ability to actually have a good life and a good marriage and good relationships is to notice the mood that I'm in, and not only notice the mood, but know how it affects my perceptions and how it affects my impulses. Because when I was younger, I would be in a mood and I would think certain thoughts, I'd perceive things in a certain way, and I would do things, and then later on I would think, what was I doing? I must have been in a bad mood. And you do that enough times, you go to enough therapy, you do enough self-reflection, and eventually you can pick up on the mood in the moment. You think, oh, and for me, I don't know if I've ever verbalized it recently anyway. I guess during the pandemic, I'd have to, it's like particular because my lifestyle is so particular, right? It's so isolated with my wife. So I think what is the first indication to me that I'm in a bad mood is when I have two or more frustrations that I'm obsessing on, that I'm focusing on, and I feel like I need to talk about, or it's going on in my mind. I think that's one indication of like, oh, I might, even those events might have actually put me in a bad mood. But either way, if I have two things in my mind that are it feels like I'm coming up with reasons to get angry, I guess, at the world. I'm like, oh, and there's another thing in my life that I don't like. And then, of course, if I'm talking about it, then I'll notice it. I think another indication is how it feels in my chest. A lot of our emotions come from our chest. Essentially, the theory goes is that we have inputs. We're seeing things in our environment, our relationships. We process that, and then we have ways of interpreting what's happening. And then an emotion kicks in as a way of motivating us. If someone is far away from us, we feel a sense of loss and we feel sad. And so our brain notices, oh, I feel emotionally distant from that person, or I'm seeing that I'm emotionally distant from that person. And then we feel this sadness feeling. And then the sadness feeling sends a signal to the rest of our body. And this is kind of a funny model because our body is the nervous system. But anyway, our body manifests that sadness in a feeling. The feeling tells us what's happening to us. And so there's a feeling of sadness and loss. And, when I'm in a bad mood, it feels hot and tense in my chest, I guess. It's hard to just put into words, but, I think y'all might be able to relate. And then that feeling is hard to ignore, and then that feeling gets registered again by the mind and by the conscious mind, and then we have an impulse to do something. And when I'm in a bad mood, I have an impulse to right injustices and to vent my feelings and to protect myself. Anyway, so for her, I think she could benefit by understanding her mood, because when she was in the conversation with Michael and the aunt, Michael said everything right. He was saying, no, it's 50-50, you and me, everything's fine. The aunt was the one that was really triggering Angela. That hurt her and scared her, which is fine. And I think she handled it for a little bit, but I think she reaches a point where it becomes too much. And then she gets real activated, and it puts her into a mood where she feels hurt and she's angry and she's frustrated and she's scared and she doesn't know what to do and she's stressed out. And she would benefit by noticing, I'm entering that mood. Bad things are going to start entering my head that I will regret later. I will have impulses to do things that I will regret later. So what do? I need to take a breath. I need to maybe stop talking so much because I'm probably going to say something I'm going to regret. So I'm just going to sit here and sip my drink, and everything will be fine, and I'll think about this later. I don't know if she has that mechanism. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.